The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
The decedent, later identified as Brianna Aguilera, was located on the ground with trauma consistent to having fallen from a higher floor. A deleted digital suicide note dated Tuesday, November 25th of this year, which was written to specific people in her life. Brianna had made suicidal comments previously to friends back in October of this year. This continued through the evening of her death with some self-harming actions earlier in the evening and a text message to another friend indicating the thought of suicide.
A Texas A&M student mysteriously dies after a football tailgate, and police are announcing that it was a suicide. But the 19-year-old's family doesn't agree, calling the investigation lazy. Plus, Autumn Walshe's affair uncovered her lover taking the stand. So how much did defendant Brian Walshe really know? And we're counting down to closing arguments in the murder trial for former pageant queen Trinity Pogue. Live court set to get underway in about an hour. We'll be following all the developments. And the impact of Pogue's defense witnesses as the former beauty queen decides not to take the stand. So will they tip the scales of justice in her case? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Friday morning to you, my friends, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. We put together a great show for you to end the work week and get the weekend started. Great guests are with us. Grab that cup of coffee right now, or tea, or hot water with lemon, whatever you're having this morning. It's time for my opening statement. The pageant queen wanted no parts of that stage. Beauty queen defendant Trinity Pogue did not want to be the star of her trial. She declined to take the stand in her own defense, which was a safe decision. But was it the best decision for a former pageant star like her? She's used to being in front of an audience. She's used to answering questions on the spot. She's used to being judged. For these reasons, I thought that there was a good chance that she just may be confident about getting up on that witness stand. She's also the only one who can explain just what happened in that short window of time when she was alone with baby JD when his dad went to go pick up that pizza. She's also the only person who might be able to explain how baby JD got those fatal injuries. Now, granted, she would also have to own up to all the animosity and the resentment that she had for the baby. Her text messages are incredibly callous and cruel, but messages don't prove murder. I think she could have owned her messages, her very mean messages, and her very bad attitude, and explained that she did not punch the baby or throw the baby or do anything violent to him. The state of Georgia has the burden of proof. The beauty pageant queen doesn't have anything to prove. So I think there was an opportunity for her to have possibly helped herself, especially if she's as well spoken on the stand as she's been on the pageant stage. You know, my friends, there's no crown to be won at trial, but a crown could never come close to being as valuable as your freedom. That's my opening statement this Friday morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
When you left the dormitory at 11:55, was there anything wrong with your son that you saw?
No, sir.
Did you smash his head in, bust his liver up, things like that before you left?
No, sir.
The case I was just talking about in Georgia, we've got the closing arguments beginning at 9 a.m. Eastern time in the murder trial for former beauty queen Trinity Pogue. And in Florida, we got a child custody hearing scheduled for Anna Kepner's stepmom and her ex-husband. Kepner was the 18-year-old found dead on a cruise ship. Her stepbrother is a suspect, according to the family court filings. That's going to start up at 9 a.m. We're going to keep you posted on that. Also happening in Florida, we got OnlyFans model Courtney Clenny with a motions hearing today. Court's going to get underway at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Right now, we turn to our top story for you, and that is the state's case continuing in less than an hour from now in the murder trial for Brian Walshe. On Thursday, the jury got to hear from Anna Walsh's lover, this guy, William Fastow. His testimony shed some light into the pair's relationship. They met while Anna was trying to find a townhouse in D.C., and Fastow was her realtor. The two were seeing each other at the time of Anna's disappearance.
What was your initial relationship?
We quickly became close friends, then confidants, and before long we started an intimate relationship. Go to bars, she would accompany me to functions. I have a boat in Annapolis, she would come sailing with me. We did a couple of fitness dates together.
So how often would you see Anna Walshe in the course of your relationship?
Typically 2 to 3 times a week.
How often would you and Anna communicate once your relationship became intimate?
Pretty much daily.
Prosecutors allege that Brian Walshe murdered Anna over the affair and for money. The defense has denied that he had any knowledge of the affair and says that she just died suddenly and unexplainably in their bed. So how much did Brian Walshe really know? And what did you think of Anna's lover's testimony? Let's unpack those questions now with our guests in the studio. With me, I have celebrity attorney and Professor Randy Kessler. And joining me remotely, I have my twin, Susan Constantine, body language expert and human behavior expert. And, you know, it's so funny. I was saying, the producers told me about 10 minutes ago that we were dressed alike. And I said, well, you know what? If I'm going to match with anybody, it's going to be my girl, Susan Constantine, because you're so gorgeous and you always dress so beautifully. So it's cool. We're going to twin.
Sorry, I didn't get the memo.
Randy, I know you're looking great in your TV blue, as we were calling it. You're looking very dapper, my friend. And Randy, so let me start with you. So legally, we see this testimony coming in from the lover. What do you think this does to push forward the state's case? Because as you know, they've got the burden here.
I think it helps tremendously, right? On one hand, maybe it makes the victim not so likable that she was cheating on her husband and she was in this relationship and she was flaunting it and going out publicly. But it really isn't about that. The question is motive, right? In these cases, when it's husband and wife, you don't need to prove motive in any case, but the jury's always going to wonder, why would he do it? This answers that question clearly. He had a reason to be jealous. Not a reason to kill her, but he had a reason to be angry, and maybe that's what caused him to do this, aside with all his other blemishes. It would, someone who's got a criminal record, whose wife is cheating, who's got no future, who's maybe going to jail, it's a piece of the puzzle that was big.
You're right, Randy. And when you say it just like that, the picture being painted is one of a guy who's really losing in life. You know, he messed up picking up that federal case. You know, he's a fraudster. He is. And he was awaiting his federal sentencing at the time that Anna died. The jury is going to figure out how she died. Was it natural, unexplainable causes, as the defense says, or was this a homicide? Susan, we don't know the answer to that question yet, but we do know things looked uncomfortable yesterday in the courtroom. So I want to go back in time with you. Our team was in the courtroom, and our producer, Tiffany Smith, noticed when there was an extended break and the lover had to walk out of the courtroom, he was taken off the witness stand just to be given a break while they were discussing things at sidebar. Our producer, Tiffany, noticed as soon as he walked past Brian Walshe got really flushed. And so she picked up on that. So how uncomfortable do you think it was in there, Susan?
Very uncomfortable, and I'm going to share with you why. When you're reading a face, I'm looking at the wrinkles that are in his forehead, and they're long, and they go all the way across his forehead. So this, and also you'll notice his eyebrows would flip. One would go this way, the other one would go this way, and they're asymmetrical. What does that mean? It means that there was some serious high cognitive load. He was straining really hard to convey a message that he wanted the jury to believe. So in that, there was this constrained working hard to deliver the right message, and that's why you saw some hesitation, some pauses, some starts and stops, and you could see the weariness of the impact of that cognitive load in his eyes in itself. He also shows a mouth shrug. And it goes like this. You'll see these little dimplers right here. The dimplers are a form of uncertainty. So when I'm looking at hand shrugs, shoulder shrugs, mouth shrugs, those are associated with deceptive behavior. However, his statement that he made, I analyzed it, there was nothing within his statement that was untrue.
Okay, so it seems from what I'm taking away, Susan, that you think he was being truthful, but this was hard. This was not easy for him to go through this process and think back to all of those things. Randy, I want to bounce a few of them off of you as a family law attorney. William Fastow and Anna, they didn't keep the relationship a secret, it seems. And we know at least he did. He testified to that. He also said that she had some issues with Brian's federal case. As you brought up, she was upset about this. We know he owed lots of money for selling those fake Andy Warhol paintings. And she said it was affecting her life. And she also said that she was suspicious of him. She told her lover that she was suspicious of his behavior. Now looking back, the prosecution, so I'm just going to argue rightfully so. Boy, Randy, this is messy, and it seems very dangerous. Would you share with us your thoughts on how things can get out of control when one strays in a marriage?
Sure, and we face this a lot. You know, I do a lot of divorce work, and a lot of times the argument is not, should she have cheated? Should she have gone outside the marriage? It's when. You know, there's just a normal course of business, which is, if you're not in love with your husband, we could all see the signs, right? This marriage was going straight downhill. He was going to jail. She was going to D.C. But you wait, or you file for divorce, and then you do the next step. And then you know, unfortunately, human nature being what it is, when you don't love somebody, when you don't care about them, you start looking, and you're open, and her relationship moved faster than her legal relationship ended. And that's just, it's a problem. Some people on the jury may hold that against her. If it was a divorce, they would hold it against her. But she's the victim. It's not going to be held against her. This is why he killed her, not justified. It's just a mess.
Yeah, great points, Randy. I want to play for you both this voicemail that came into evidence. So we know that Brian Walshe knew Anna was dead at the time he made this call, but he calls up the lover, like asking if he knows where Anna is. The lover even goes so far as to go check the house. Susan, I would love for you to listen to his voice, the statements, and give us your thoughts on the other side. Here we go.
Good afternoon, Brian Walshe. I hope all is going well. I was just reaching out to basically everybody I could. Anna hasn't been in touch for a few days. I spoke to work today. She hasn't been in. They went to the house and she wasn't there, or it was like she's been there recently. So just wondering if you've spoken to her in the near, recently, like Sunday or the last 2 days. Just so let me know, or if you know anyone that might have had contact with her, calling everyone. So sorry to bother you. Sure, everything's fine, and we should.
Okay, Susan, tell us what you heard, please.
Liar, liar, pants on fire, Julie.
My girl. My girl.
Okay. All right, so I analyzed his statement. He scored a 74, deception indicated, and I'm going to share with you why. First of all, this is a serious situation. His flow of his conversation is very conversational. He opens up with trying to gain, likability, like, hey, it's very casual, hope your day is good. I don't know, I said something to that nature. But it was really odd. His vocal tone and his rhythm was very controlled and modulated throughout. There was no sense of urgency. There was no sense of concern. The words flowed evenly. There were some ands and ums and pauses, but he kept on a roll. So he had obviously had rehearsed this response, and it came across very scripted. The other thing is he used the words basically. Well, basically is where you're withholding information, like blah, 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 blah. Well, basically, it's saying there's two opposing thoughts. So not giving you all the information, they're withholding. There's also words like just, and he's giving just for justification. So he's minimizing some of his thoughts. So he's not concerned at all. Well, why? Because he already knows she's dead. So in that statement in itself was very revealing. I could have broken it down to every single word he said, but overall, his statement was deceptive, and everything about it showed it in his language and also his flow, his rhythm, his pacing, and his tonality.
Wow, and all that is really scary to think about how he can lie with such ease and sound so convincing. I think he is diabolical and very dangerous. That's me. Wondering what the jury is thinking. We're going to go back into that courtroom at 9 a.m. Eastern. Susan, my wonderful twin, great insight. We got to let you go today. Thank you so much for everything this morning. Have a great weekend. Randy Kessler's coming with us. You do the same at home, please. When we come back, here's what's next.
From the moment this call originated up until now, between all of the witness statements, all of the video evidence, and all of the digital evidence collected, at no time did any evidence point to this being anything of a criminal nature. Rather, our investigation has revealed that unfortunately Brianna had made suicidal comments previously to friends back in October of this year.
What's trending in true crime is the mysterious death of a Texas A&M student. Was it really suicide? Her family disagrees. Plus, closings are less than an hour away in the murder trial of pageant queen Trinity Pogue. Will her defense witnesses tip the scales of justice?
The Court TV podcast will return.
It is not common for a police department to speak publicly about a death by suicide. But inaccurate information has circulated and been reported. And that has led to additional harm of innocent people, bullying included, and their families. There have also been statements suggesting the police have failed to do our jobs. Those statements are not accurate.
Now for what's trending in true crime, the death of Texas A&M student Brianna Aguilera has many people asking questions. The 19-year-old was found dead early Saturday morning after going to a football tailgate the night before. Now police say it appears that she fell, citing her injuries, and that a witness heard a thud. Authorities now say that Brianna died by suicide, but her family doesn't believe that that's true. Police explained how they came to their decision.
A further review of Brianna's phone shows a deleted digital suicide note dated Tuesday, November 25th of this year. Our investigation has revealed that unfortunately Brianna had made suicidal comments previously to friends back in October of this year. This continued through the evening of her death with some self-harming actions earlier in the evening and a text message to another friend indicating the thought of suicide.
So why does Brianna's family think that this wasn't a suicide? Let's explore that. Let me bring in our guests. With Black Ops, private investigators also served in the NYPD, and our military Manuel Gomez is with us. So is retired NYPD detective and the co-host of the Gold Shield show, Tom Smith. Good morning to you both. I know you both are wonderful people, and I know you feel for this family because this is just tragic overall. Let's kind of explore why the family might be doubting what the investigation has yielded. Tom, would you start us off with your thoughts, please?
Yeah, it's sad, and police get put into these situations quite often, unfortunately. But, you know, as a parent, you never want to think you don't know your child, or you don't know what your child is going through, or even to this extent. So the pushback of the conclusion of this is quite normal. And we run into this a lot when we arrest, you know, children or young adults that their parents don't want to believe that they could be involved in something like that. And this is very similar when it comes to a suicide.
Tom, thank you for that. Manuel, what are your thoughts about what the family may be thinking this morning?
Well, first of all, I want to say my condolences to the loss of this beautiful angel. And second, I do have to concur with my colleague here that, you know, this does happen often where people jump to conclusions. But what I have a problem is, Julie, this case was labeled suicide too quickly. The toxicology reports haven't come back. You know, we haven't had a full coroner's examination revealed to what the evidence revealed on that. And the other thing is the fact that they're saying that she fell off the balcony. No, Julie, this girl was approximately 5'3" in height. The fence that was on the balcony is approximately 5'5". She had to climb over and jump over. So I don't believe she fell. And I lean to the fact that I do think this was a suspicious death.
Oh, interesting, Manuel. Okay, let's go further here. We know that Brianna Aguilera called her boyfriend right before her death. This is approximately 2 minutes before the 911 call after the fall was placed. Let's listen to what one of the detectives who worked the case had to say about that.
You mentioned an argument with her boyfriend before her death. How soon did that happen before her death, and were you able to make contact with him as well?
So I have spoken with him multiple times. That phone call happened approximately 2 minutes before the 911 call of her reporting her on the sidewalk.
Okay, and we know that she also, according to police, attended the tailgate but became quite intoxicated at the tailgate and was actually asked to leave. Detective Smith, back to you. Do you think it was too soon? Manuel raises a really interesting point for discussion of not having the toxicology back, but already labeling the cause and manner of the death here.
Yeah, I think Manuel is absolutely right. You know, you want every part of an investigation to be concluded before you make a statement that it is concluded. And he brings up a great point of making sure it's all done, because you can't go backwards. You know, once you do a press conference like they just did, whatever now comes up in that toxicology report, they can't go backwards. And that's the sad part of this. They can open an investigation again into maybe something, another piece of information comes up, but you already kind of let the cat out of the bag. And that's very dangerous when it comes to the integrity of an investigation and the police department.
Well, see, this is why we want you investigators on this show to tell us things like this. So, okay, so maybe they're right. Maybe it was a suicide, but maybe this determination was made a bit too soon. So let's go a little bit further with the family. So we know they don't believe it was a suicide. Police seem to have taken a step where they're revealing some more information about the case publicly, but some think in this next clip you're about to see that they were aiming this directly at the family. Let's take a listen to what was said.
I want to be clear about a few things. It is not common for a police department to speak publicly about a death by suicide, but inaccurate information has circulated and been reported, and that has led to additional harm of innocent people, bullying included, and their families. There have also been statements suggesting the police have failed to do our jobs. Those statements are not accurate. I understand how grief and the need for answers can raise intense emotions and many questions. But sometimes the truth doesn't provide the answers we are hoping for, and that is this case.
Okay, so Brianna Aguilera's mother responded to what was said in the press conference saying, quote, "Please don't believe this lazy investigator and investigation. Tony Busby will get us the justice we need." He's a lawyer. We've heard his name in the Diddy case, if that name sounds familiar to you, representing several civil victims. He's the one also that Jay-Z fired back at. That's beside the point. And won. So what more can the family do here with this case, if they're dissatisfied with the result? We know that it's tough being an investigator, it's tough being a prosecutor, because sometimes people just are not happy with what they're being told. Even if it is the truth and it's 100% true, they just don't want to believe it, so they want to go another route. Manuel, what do you think when you hear this mother calling these investigators lazy?
Well, unfortunately, I have to say this is a national problem, Julie. Thousands of mothers every day across the United States go into police precincts and report children missing. And they don't do anything immediately. And as I said on Court TV before numerous times, we have to revamp our Amber Alert system. So when a mother comes in, like this mother did, she came in at hours before the death of her daughter and said, listen, she's missing. I can't get in contact with her. And what did they do? They did nothing. So I can't really call Austin Police Department lazy. What I have to call lazy is the entire judicial system of police departments nationwide, because this is a nationwide problem. So what I would recommend for the mother is take the beauty of this angel and use this as an example with a congressman or a senator so that we can revamp the system so that we can make sure that angels like this don't get lost. Because the key thing, Julie, is timing. When somebody reports someone missing, please, they have to act immediately. Unfortunately, the NYPD, Austin Police Department, California Police Department, all of them do not act immediately. And this is something that I experience every week as an investigator.
Oh, I appreciate you sharing your sentiments, Manuel. Certainly, we feel terrible for this family. I mean, it's just awful this death has occurred. Tom Smith, let me go to you on the mother's sentiments, lashing out. They're turning to this civil lawyer, hoping that he can, you know, quote unquote, get them justice. What do you expect to happen next?
Well, the lawyer, through the lawyer, they're probably going to go with a private investigation company or an investigator to redo everything and relook at it on their terms, at their pace, and to see what else they can find out. You know, I think that's the normal course that families go through, and they have every right to do that. Just picking up on one thing you asked, Julie, and Manuel touched on, you know, I think law enforcement today relies a little bit too much on technology, and to just sum this up because she texted something or wrote something in her phone, I think might be something they can relook at. Just to conclude with that, you know, because of a text message or something that was deleted on a piece of technology, I think might be a rush, as Manuel said earlier.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Tom. Thank you for that. Yeah, this is so tricky. I mean, this is not cut and dry, you know, and I feel for that department. When we heard, I'm presuming it was the chief of police saying that we don't typically comment on a suicide case, but we have to in this instance because of all the false narratives. So I give her credit because, to your point, Tom, in this digital age, people can write anything, say anything, and, you know, the people that are really in the know, if they're the ones that know the truth and they're not speaking out, then, you know, what do they say? A lie can get halfway around the world before the truth can get its pants on. So I get where they're coming from, and so I think it's good that they're being transparent. We'll keep following it. We love having you two on this program. Tom Smith, Manuel Gomez, great insight as always. Thank you kindly. When we come back, here's what's coming up. We're being a voice for victims, as we like to do every week here on Opening Statements. In this segment, we're spotlighting the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, as his alleged assassin, Luigi Mangione, has been in court all week. Plus,
That wasn't the first time that baby had woke you up crying, was it?
No, sir.
Actually, he cried a lot when he was there around Miss Poe, didn't he?
Yes, sir, every time.
Every time?
Yes, sir.
in the impact of the beauty queen's defense case, could the defense witnesses tip the scales of justice for Trinity Pogue?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Brian Thompson, he is still a human being, you know, like nobody should kill anyone, really. But yeah, he is still a human being. He still has a family, as does Luigi.
This week marks 1 year since United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was gunned down in New York City. And this morning, we're giving a voice to this victim as his accused killer, Luigi Mangione, returns to court for a pretrial hearing. Thompson was gunned down on December 4th of last year as he walked in Manhattan. The suspect fled the scene. 5 days later, Mangione was arrested inside of a Pennsylvania McDonald's after patrons recognized him from media coverage. His attorneys are now trying to get certain evidence thrown out because they say that he was not read his Miranda warnings before being questioned, and that his backpack was searched without police having a warrant to do so. In court on Thursday, video and testimony show that Mangione told officers he didn't want to talk, but police kept questioning him. Nearly 20 minutes passed before police informed him of his right to remain silent. Let's bring in our power panel and talk about this case and whether any of this evidence is going to be excluded from the trial. I have attorney guests Joe Tamburino and Randy Kessler and retired NYPD detective Tom Smith. Joe, let me start with you with criminal procedure and process. This is what you're doing every day. Tell me, do you see some concerns that the state of New York may have here?
Good morning, Julie. Thanks for having me on. No, I really don't. I've read Mangione's, I think it's 53-page brief. And, you know, the issue about Miranda, even if the judge agreed that Miranda should have been read earlier and he's going to suppress statements, Mangione really didn't say anything that's earth-shattering. There are no smoking guns in his statement in that McDonald's restaurant. But I really don't see that as an issue. In terms of the search of his backpack, I don't see that as an issue as well. In their brief, they didn't even mention the seminal cases, Schimmel, Gant, Davis, and his backpack was 6 feet away from him. So I think the judge is going to uphold that as what's called a search incident to arrest. So he might have an argument in Miranda, but even if he wins that, it doesn't really affect the case. And there's no way he's going to win the search warrant in terms of, and the lack of a search warrant in terms of searching his backpack.
Oh, Joe, interesting. Hot take, hot take. Thank you so much for all of that. I want to show a couple things to you all here about the date in the McDonald's. We have a little bit of information here. So Luigi Mangione was having a conversation with the officers. The officer says he was eating a hash brown. They made some small talk about a steak McMuffin. The officer is heard asking Mangione, do you know what all this nonsense is about? Mangione replies, we're going to find out, I guess. And then that's when he false IDs then. He false IDs, and then the officer's like, oh, if you don't give us your correct name, we can arrest you. And then when he properly identifies himself, then some things are found. We've got some bus tickets in his pocket that are found. We know that he was at the Drexel station at 1:06 p.m., went from Philly to Pittsburgh, 1:55 p.m. The name was Sam Dawson, so apparently went to some lengths to protect his identity there. We got a folded up note also found in his pocket with a checklist that included the December 8th Best Buy, USBS digital camera, water bottles, and a trash bag. Okay, so this is some evidence we didn't previously know about that was found. Randy Kessler, what do you think? How bad is this evidence found on Luigi Mangione?
I think it's piling on, right? I think you don't need it, but prosecutors want to have everything they can. This is a case they can't afford to lose, right? You got something this high profile, you want to have every single thing you can. It also is one more stack of cards to say, look, you really want to go to trial in case anything gets thrown out, in case the Miranda issue comes up, in case your discussions at McDonald's don't come up. We don't need that, and I don't think they do need it, Julie. I think that they got enough. Sure, it helps. You couldn't convict just on what he had. He had a to-do list that he had to buy trash bags. In and of itself, big deal, but combined with everything else, it's piling on, and it helps the prosecution.
Great points, Randy. I want to play a clip for you. This is the police officer who's been described as a rookie officer in Altoona, Pennsylvania, talking about how he identified the suspected gunman.
As soon as he was wearing a blue medical mask. As soon as we pulled that down, or we asked him to pull it down, me and my partner and I recognized him immediately, just from what we saw in the media with photos, videos. We just didn't even think twice about it. We knew that was our guy.
Okay, Detective Smith, the police are getting some criticism because after the identification, they're reading him his Miranda warnings, but saying that he's not in custody. And then they proceed to search the backpack, and somebody pipes up, and it's caught on camera that we should maybe get a warrant for that, but too late. They already found that gun, that 3D printed handgun, in his journal, where he talked about wanting to whack CEO of a healthcare company. Detective, do you see anything wrong with what the police did and how they did it?
No, I don't. I actually think they did a magnificent job with staying calm. They didn't rush in there, you know, their guns drawn, thinking who he might be. They walked in. They had a great tactical position on him. He's sitting down in a corner. They're standing above him and just having a conversation. I think they did a great job. And as far as the backpack goes, that backpack was going to get searched anyway, as Joe said, as incidental to an arrest. It's all going to get vouchered no matter what was in there. And it being so close to him, you want to check for weapons because this individual is accused of a murder with a handgun. You know, so you have to be ready and prepared for that handgun still being on him. But I don't think they did anything wrong in this case.
I appreciate your insight on this, Detective. We know this is a New York case. We know where this is going to be tried, both in state and in federal court in New York. Joe, tell me, this defense team, they are being very, very forceful, thorough, methodical with everything. Is there anything that you think they've raised that has any teeth here?
No, not really. And they have to be forceful and methodical because this is a death penalty case. In fact, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, within 2 months of Mr. Thompson's murder, classified this as a death penalty case. So whenever you get a death penalty, of course, you know, you scrutinize it even a lot more than just some regular case or a case even with life imprisonment because it involves death. So this defense team really has to do everything they can. They have to object to everything. They have to put motions on everything. So this is par for the course. But I agree with what's been said and what I said earlier. The search of his person, the search of the backpack, it is search incident to arrest. It could also be what's called exigent circumstances because they're arresting someone who supposedly just murdered someone, you know, not only with intent, but premeditation likely. And so I don't think that search is going to be suppressed. And with Miranda, again, even if the judge thought, well, Miranda should have been done earlier, nothing was said that's earth-shattering. The government still has a very, very strong case against Mr. Mangione.
Joe Tamburino, Detective Tom Smith, Attorney Randy Kessler, thank you much. Stand by, please. We're going to hit a break, and as we go to break, we want to remember the victim. You know, there's so much talk about this case, and it's all focused on Luigi Mangione, so we want to focus on Brian Thompson. His life mattered. His friends called him BT. He was married and leaves behind 2 little boys. Our hearts go out to them as they're still mourning his death. We'll be right back.
This is the Court TV podcast.
Now for what's tipping the scales of justice in the pageant queen child murder case. Trinity Pogue's defense witnesses, she chose not to take the stand. Instead, they called some people who knew her or had hired her to babysit their kids. They also recalled the deputy coroner who testified in the state's case along with the GBI agent. Let's take a look at what a couple of those witnesses said.
Do you know the defendant, Trinity Pogue?
Yes, sir. She was my babysitter for my children.
And how long a period of time was she the babysitter for your children?
She started watching my 2 stepkids that I have in 2020, and then I had my own child in 2022, and she also watched her.
And in all of those times, did she babysit for you? Were there any issues with her babysitting duties for the children?
No, sir.
Okay, when you were sleeping, got awakened. What awakened you?
A baby crying.
Actually, he cried a lot when he was there around Miss Pogue, didn't he?
Yes, sir, every time.
Every time?
Yes, sir.
So what opinions did you hear her express about the child?
She was describing that she didn't particularly like him.
All right, so the other big thing everybody's been talking about is that the defendant chose not to take the stand. So was there enough done with her legal team's strategy in calling these other witnesses, not her, or should she have gotten up there and told the jury what happened from her perspective. Let's bring in our legal eagles. Still with me in the studio, attorney Randy Kessler, and joining us remotely, attorney Joe Tamburino. Okay, Randy, let me start with you. You're licensed to practice in the state of Georgia. You've had cases in Sumter County where this one is going on. And tell me, the decision not to testify, it's a big one. Do you think she made the right one here?
So I think you nailed it in your opening statement, which is, if you're going to testify, she's got to own it, right? She's got to explain that away. Yes, I said these horrible things. We all think horrific things once in a while. We have bad dreams. I want to kill my parents. I want to do something, but I would never do that. The problem is none of us know how she would have appeared. Only her lawyer got to practice with her, and that lawyer has to make a judgment call and say, I don't believe you. You're not persuasive enough. You'll get ripped apart on cross-examination, or you were so great, we're going to put you up. That's a decision. They have that cocoon to figure it out, and we can't second-guess that.
Yeah, you're so right. Assessing a client, right? That's a tough thing that you lawyers have to do in private practice and make that decision, because if you have someone who you think, as you said, is going to be effective, it may be great. She may tip the scales in her favor, but if she's bad up there, ooh, get closer to a conviction maybe. Joe Tamburino, what do you think about the beauty queen? Do you think she could have possibly helped herself?
Yes, I think she could have helped herself. I mean, she's a beauty queen. She goes to pageants. She interacts with people. We have to assume she's a very social person. She's babysat other people's kids. I don't see why she didn't take the stand. Yes, of course, it's always a judgment call. You sit with your client. But even if she were to be an average witness on the stand, say a B- C+ witness, that's better than a D or an F witness, and this is her only shot. She's got to explain those words. I think it was a mistake for her not to take the stand.
Joe, thank you for that. Randy, I want to ask you about something important here when it comes to her owning the bad messages, and I'm sure you deal with this, especially in your family law practice. You know, you represent lots of high-profile clients, and in divorces, I mean, people, I can't imagine the things that are said, you know, in the walls of your office. Like, you know, and just a statement and a statement alone isn't enough, is it?
No, but sometimes, I mean, we have all sorts of phrases and cliches, you know, defang the tiger, take the wind out of their sails, get ahead of it, right? You want to own it. Unfortunately, you know, the state goes first, and so the defense can't start off and say, before we get started, she's going to admit she said these things. In opening, he could have, but yeah, if you can get out in front of it and say, let me explain away the worst thing they have to say about me, it does help. You know, on the other hand, the lawyer can sort of do that in closing anyway. You know, we've all said bad things. Just because you say, I hate this child, doesn't mean, anybody ever think there's a child bad enough that you might hate that child? Sure, but does that mean you're going to take the next step? Maybe the lawyer can do it for the client. It would have been better if she could have done it effectively.
Right, Randy, exactly. Joe, tell me, do you think they missed the mark in not having a medical expert independent of somebody from that coroner's office?
Well, we don't know if they checked that out and decided not to proceed. That happens sometimes, you know. I mean, the defense, as a defense, as opposed to a prosecutor who has, you know, you have to have exculpatory evidence, Brady material disclosed. As the defense side, sometimes you might talk to a medical expert, and the medical expert says, hey, prosecutor's got it right. I agree with them. Well, you don't call that witness. You know, that goes nowhere, basically. So we don't know if they decided to check out the medical evidence, you know, on their own, and it didn't turn out well. But also, you know, I wanted to bring up one thing, going back to sometimes you say, you know, terrible things and you don't mean it. I think of back to the Johnny Depp trial. Remember how many bad things were said? I mean, you know, I want to rip off Amber Heard's head. And, you know, Johnny Depp wasn't going to kill or anything like that. So, I mean, yeah, people say some crazy things, but it doesn't mean that they are murderers.
That is a perfect example, perfect point to end on, Joe. Thank you. You're right. Yeah, I mean, there's some wild things that are said sometimes. And that trial, you can go back and watch it in our Court TV archives. It's there. What a landmark case that was. Great discussion with you both. Joe, you're coming along with us for Court TV Live. Randy Kessler, you got cases to win. We got to let you get off to court. Thank you for being in the studio today. Friends at home, thanks for being with us for opening statement.
That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.